Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Eric Hersey. How are you doing today, Eric?
Jim, that is not the question. That is, how are you doing today? Are you still, are you out of breath from running around? I hear that you have somewhat of an epic tale yourself that happened over the last 24, 48 hours.
All right. Well, indulge me here, folks. I will try to keep this as short as possible, but it's been an interesting, let's say 36 hours. Okay, long story short. My lovely bride, Nancy, she for months now has been planning on going on the Hallmark cruise. In fact, she did it last year, so enjoyed it. As soon as the next sailing became available, she, booked a cabin and made plans with all of her friends online. And our friend Angela is going along as her cabin mate. And so a lot of time, a lot of money. Anyway, it's Monday night. And Nancy is finishing her packing, and so she goes to dig out her birth certificate. She's planning on using that and a photo ID, her driver's license, to get on the boat, and she can't find her birth certificate. So she starts looking everywhere in the house, and after about a half hour, I join her. And so it's 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, still haven't found it. 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, still have not found. And Nancy is starting to despair now. In fact, she's sending notes to Angela to the effect of, geez, I don't think I can go on this cruise. And, I'll contact the cruise line and see, if we can get the cabin changed from my name to your name. But, she spent months planning this, and it just, and I feel so bad for her. But by 2:30 in the morning, I'm exhausted. I need to go to sleep. And so, again, this is what my lizard brain came up with at 2:30 in the morning. I turned to Nancy and said, tell you what, let's just stop looking. Here's what we'll do. Tomorrow, we'll get up early. And your birth certificate, you got that down in New Jersey, right? And said, yeah. I sent away to the township of Newton, and they eventually sent me a copy of my birth certificate. Said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And I hop on the computer, and it's like, Newton is 286 miles away from New Boston, New Hampshire. We'll get in the car. Get first thing in the morning. Well, that's 4 and 5 hours in the car. We drive straight to Newton. We get you a new birth certificate. And then we turn around and we drive into New York City. They got 3 airports. There's got to be one of them that has a direct flight to Miami. And she's like, really? You're willing to do that? And it's like, come on, we got to try. And, so we go to bed, and I'm lying there in bed thinking, I just made an impossible promise to my wife. There's no way I'm actually going to be able to deliver on this, but I have to try. I have to make an effort.
Right.
She's heartbroken. So we do it. We get up at 6. We're in the car by 7. And while we're in the car, she's actually canceling her flight from Manchester Regional Airport down to Orlando. I guess she was flying into Miami. And we're counting down, the minutes till the registrar's office opens in Newton, New Jersey. And by the time it's 9:00 in the morning and the office is open, we're already in Connecticut. And it's like, this is the moment of truth. This when we find out that my stupid plan is going to collapse. And we get this lovely woman, Janine, on the line. And we explain the situation. She says the magic words, no problem. It'll only take 5 minutes. You come straight into the office. I go, how many do you want? And I immediately 2. I want 2. Yeah. One for Nancy to immediately misplace again, and one for me to keep. And I'll box, lock door. And so, this lovely woman. By 12 noon, we are, actually 12:30. We're in Newton, New Jersey. We go straight into the office. And by 1:00, we are in the car, and we're driving to the airport. And now I want to point out, folks, that if you've been paying attention to the news at all, like the story that just broke about what they're going to because of the government shutdown and the air traffic controllers not being paid. I guess it's on Friday. That
10%, right?
10%.
They're going to deduction, yeah.
Okay, and more to the point, Mr. Testa just last week we had to change a record date because he was flying out of Newark in that airport because of the government shutdown and because of some weather issues. It's closed, entirely closed. So that's the other thing I'm thinking. All right, we got the document.
Step one done.
And it's just, but are we actually going to be able to get a flight out? And oh my God, American Airlines, I love you. That they had, we're driving from Newton because now we've been looking all morning at possibles, and there's a 4:59. That flies out. And it's one of these things where, it's like we can get there 2 hours before the flight. And we do that. We roll into LaGuardia at 3:00 and walk into their brand new, beautiful, oh my God, the B-side of LaGuardia. It's the nicest airport I've ever been to. And the staff was lovely. And they took Nancy's bag and they assigned her seats. And not only that, Eric, a day of ticket from LaGuardia down to Miami, direct flight, only $228. I mean, I was stunned. Wow. I thought, it's like
you might have saved money on this deal, Jim.
No, that's it exactly. I fully expected to hand over an internal organ.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, I walked Nancy to the TSA point, and and she's kind of looking up like, you did this, you pulled this off, and I just said, I want to remember this at some point in the future, and it's coming when I am a jerk. All right, remember this. Remember that this impossible thing. We somehow managed to pull off, and in fact, just before Eric and I started recording here, my lovely friend Angela, who again is accompanying Nancy on this cruise, literally sent me a photo of Nancy crossing the gangway onto the boat. She made it down there, folks. She got there. They accepted her documentation. Dumbest plan in the history of man, and it actually worked.
Well, Jim, I just remember seeing that email late at night saying, guys, I think you sent it to us, and it was a heading is like, I just done it's the dumbest thing I think I can do. But I turned to Lauren and I said, not a chance. I said, love him to death. There is no way this is going to happen. But
same thing.
Things went right.
I just, the planets aligned. And again, just want to thank Janine, the lovely, seriously, put the civil in civil servant. I've never dealt with a more lovely person, and she sent us on our way, and she wouldn't even, I was like, what do you like? Do you like Dunkin' Donuts? Do you like, I get her, do you like Starbucks? And I said, no, it's my pleasure, that this is my job. And it's like, who are you? And what are you doing in civil service? So,
and you made it home. So you put a lot of miles on the car, and you were in the car for quite some time.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I drop off Nancy at 3, and all day long, I have been going the right direction. I'm always on the other side of the traffic jam. But this, on the other hand, I literally drive out of the city into the teeth of, of rush hour traffic. And even that wasn't terrible. I mean, it took me 6 hours to get home. It was back in the house by 9:00 at night. But yeah, 14 hours in the car, 700 miles on the car. But it doesn't matter. Nancy gets to do her Hallmark cruise. And, and
listen, coming to Hallmark Channel near you, it's the Hallmark Cruise Saga, where our friend Colin Eaglesfield plays Jim Hill, and Nancy can pick who she wants to play her.
Oh, right? Well, actually, given how Colin works, she probably wants to play herself, so, but anyway, on that note, folks, this is a Universal podcast. You don't want to hear me being a whiny baby man. And more to the point, we got news, lots of news this week, and we got to continue our story about the Dark Universe. So before we do that, we have to acknowledge our sponsor, which of course is unlockmagic.com. And if you're planning a trip to Universal Orlando or Walt Disney World, please check out Unlock Magic. Listen to Epic Universe podcast. They are getting upwards of 12% off on theme park tickets, including discounts to the after-hours parties that are being held at Walt Disney World right now, Mickey's Very Merry and Jollywood Nights. But again, please check unlockmagic.com out. Save today. And when you do, tell them it was Eric and Jim who sent you there. So, speaking of the Universal Parks in Florida, evidently they have been helping the bottom line at the parent company, Comcast. Is that correct?
Yeah, no surprise here, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the third quarter earnings came out, and no surprise at all that the first quarter of operation of the Universal Epic Park had some major growth driving for the Comcast company. 19% year-over-year revenue increase?
Oh, yeah.
In the theme park division. So not surprising. Obviously, you open up a third park. We, got lots of promotion, lots going on here. So it's not surprising that they increased. 19% is pretty good year over year, right?
Well, let's face it, this is what they were hoping for, especially last year when the numbers were a little softer. And we've talked about this, Eric. What happened there was people who deliberately put off their trip to Universal because they were waiting on the new park. But now, what's fascinating is now that they're going back to Universal, they're staying longer, aren't they?
That's the thing that I thought was kind of interesting is so co-CEO Mike Cavanaugh stated that it's now helping people with basically make it a week-long vacation destination along with the existing parks. And what I thought was interesting, and he basically said it was higher driver, like per capita spending on attendance, and it had less cannibalization from the older parks than anticipated. Because one would think that, like, or in Orlando, we're going to do our, Magic Kingdom parks, this, that, and so forth. And maybe we won't do one of the others. It doesn't sound like that's the case. It sounds like we are now saying, hey, we're going to do all three. And maybe, so I'm wondering, I'll be very interested to see how this data comes out against the other Florida theme parks like SeaWorld and Disney and Legoland. But it sounds like Epic did move the needle in the right direction, which is exciting.
Oh, no, absolutely. But also, let's be honest here about, there's a brilliant strategy at work here. I mean, think about it. If you're a Harry Potter fan, in even the smallest Harry Potter fan, you have to go to all three parks, right? And if you're Eric Hersey, I mean, you got to go to, Epic Universe just for the butterbeer, crepes. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Listen, I did. Now, granted, I have other reasons to go, but that was definitely a place. You're right. That is kind of smart. I wonder if they'll ever plan that out, because I almost feel like they could do the same with Nintendo. Like if you put Zelda in one, Mario in another, I would say Kirby or something that would be so genius.
Oh, no. I would bet real money on that strategy emerging in the next 10 years, especially, given what's about to happen with The Simpsons and potentially with Marvel. It just, you want to trade strength for strength. And as Super Nintendo, world has proven, that's strength.
There was one other thing that they said in this, I want your opinion on it. It says Comcast expects the park to fully scale up in the coming months as teams work to increase ride capacity and fine-tune operations. Jim, what does fully scale up? Well, can this park handle more people?
I mean, we'll face it, thanks to our buddy BioReconstruct, we already know about, for example, the construction of that theater complex. And in fact, kind of anticipating this coming later on this month, what with IAPA, the Attractions Expo happening at the Orange County Convention Center. This is traditionally, when, Disney and Universal, because, the theme park world is in town, releases its future plans, to the effect. Yeah. And the smart money is, kind of on Epic doing what Islands of Adventure did in its second year of operation. Maybe, quickly, buying and then putting in a couple of additional flat rides, which will bump up. And again, if once that theater complex comes on hand, that'll add additional capacity. And, reading between the lines here, remember, we're just coming off of the Stardust Racer situation. And when you had your giant dueling coaster in the center of your park down for a couple of weeks, that didn't look great. But
I would like to see some family-friendly rides come in. I mean, it might not be the thing that gets on the top of the headlines. I know everybody wants, e-ticket attractions, but a couple friendly kid coaster or kid flat rides. anything in that aspect would be very helpful. So it'd be interesting to see.
Well, and again, we're not looking for, Epic Universe, to flame out anytime soon. Though, speaking of flame out, your next story, the Burning Blade is no longer burning. What's going on here?
Well, this was reported on the 1st, and I don't have anybody on the streets. Maybe somebody, if you've been down there, you're flying over, not talking to anybody in specifically, but just check to see if this is back on.
Okay.
But it turns out the Burning Blade Tavern lost its windmill. So for those not aware, the Burning Blade Tavern is, I think it's a nod to the old Frankenstein film, right? It's a windmill, and it catches fire every 15 minutes, and it's a nice spectacle. I missed it when I was there both times. Like, I saw it at a distance, but never could get to it exactly on that 15. But it basically spins and it catches fire and it goes around for a while. It's a wonderful, cool effect, but the windmill was gone. Like the blade is gone. And, just wondering, did you hear any rumblings? Did you hear of anything like there were new issues?
No, I had not. The hard reality is, you build a theme park, and then once it's open, you figure out how to operate it, and it might be one of those things. That's a lovely effect. How do you plan on keeping that running?
Right.
This is the part of this, I think, has got to be amusing unless they decided to turn it off. But there's this effect they do prior to the burning blade catching fire, is that there's this lighting effect in the woods next to the burning blade, which supposedly, it's supposed to be the angry mob arriving and setting fire to the building where, Frankenstein is holed up. At least again from the 31 film. And so now, I guess if you stand outside and watch the angry mob come through the forest, and they arrive at the building, and then they turn around. What? Nobody brought a torch? Oh, dang.
Well, the funny thing is online, Jim, there's the Invisible Man meeting out there. Now, there are many calling it the Invisible Blade. So it's still there. It's just, it's a new effect, right?
Okay. So, all right. Continuing our focus on Universal Orlando, we got a guest survey. You're pulling a lead testy here, Eric.
I do love a survey. That's one of the things I love about the Disney Dish. So, part of me wasn't able to send it over to you guys to discuss early enough, but feel free next week.
Okay.
We got an anonymous listener who has an expiring annual pass. So I thought this was very interesting because some of the questions really do lean into this, right? And we talked on last week's show about, the whole annual pass. Is Epic going to be on it? Sounds to me like some of these questions are actually causing, they're checking to see what the temperature in the water is, especially since this user said they didn't yet renew it. So it specifically asked about Epic Universal one-day tickets, asking whether guests have purchased them yet, or what's the likely data point gauging demand before adding it to annual passes. So there was also some questions that was talking about why not renewing the passes, and some items were price concerns or lack of Epic Universe access, or waiting for changes to the pass program to happen. There was also questions that asked, what's going to motivate your renew, right? Access to Epic included in my annual pass, or new attractions, or larger discounts, which was interesting. And I mean, they have to be asking these questions directly to figure out, should we make a move right now, right? I mean, does that make sense? Or
it does.
Why else would they asking somebody who's not yet renewed their pass? Because I have to imagine there's a lot of people that are like, dude, if I'm going to have to buy an Epic ticket by myself and buy the others, I'll just a la carte it.
What's fascinating to me is the left-hand, right-hand aspect of this. Because face it, you just shared the news coming out of the quarterly from Comcast and about that 19% bump. But at the same time, you got to watch your pennies, because those add up to dollars. And the fact that here's an annual pass holder who's opting not to renew, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we just built this amazing $1 billion new theme park, and you're not renewing. It's like, just okay, just hang on. What would make you stay? And then realistically, this is not a situation where, all right, this one guy isn't staying because we don't. All right, build a brand new giant e-ticket. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. But if there's
Yeah.
enough anecdotal evidence where it's like, all right, so what's going to move the needle? What if we give you a discount on staying on site? Will that help? What else? And
Yeah.
just looking for those. What knobs can we turn here that sort of stems the flow of annual pass holders. I mean, let's also be honest here that, there are, forces in the marketplace that Universal can't control. I mean, just what's going on in the economy right now.
They ask questions. Yeah, Jim, that's the funny thing is the second set of questions is very much like that. It's talking about current finances of last year, which I don't know if it was Disney or Universal. I know you guys talked about over in the dish that there were some questions out there very similar, like, hey, what are you planning? What is your kind of like, where are you at in the next 12 months?
Yeah.
So they're definitely asking, and these questions was like, we'd like to consider your travel and leisure behavior in general. Compared to the same time last year, would you say your financial situation has worsened, stayed the same, improved? That's huge. And then how likely are you going to do the following in the next 12 months? Visit a beach, vacation in a big city, take an outdoorsy vacation, take an international vacation, go on a cruise. Mind you, these are all things that necessarily, I guess, an international vacation, you could be doing a Universal property, but no cruising, not really outdoorsy stuff. So it's very much like, are we losing any market share to somebody else?
Yeah.
And or trying to figure that out. So I think this is very interesting. The amount of epic questions that were on about the annual pass means there is a direct tie that they're definitely saying people aren't renewing, and there's a churn of annual pass holders because they want to know what they're supposed to do. Because I think if let's say you renew right now, and there's not an epic version, like you're going to have to pay more to get the other, if they add it on halfway through the year or something like that. Because I think a lot of us just want to know what to do with it.
Oh, no.
Should we renew or not?
Yeah, and face it, I mean, just the stuff that Kavanaugh was saying, the co-CEO, about fully scaling up that park. I mean, that, without saying the quiet part out loud, that means they're still throttling attendance at that theme park. And, face it, if they're not confident that they can have the paying day guests as well as the annual pass holders, who, let's be honest here, folks, do parks differently because they can come back. So they're just as likely, for example, it's like, well, I'll lead outside the park, or I'll come in just to ride that ride, or I won't spring for the t-shirt, or, the thing that the tourist that's there doing the once in a lifetime trip does.
Right. We're not to say, like, I always say this because I'm an annual passer at both places, Disney and here. And this is like, I live in West Virginia, but I really treat the parks like a local. We literally have gone into Epcot and just walked around before. Once you go there so often, you know what you like to do and so forth. So we are definitely not worth as much. But right now they kind of get to double dip because we're going to pay to go to Epic. So it's very interesting how they're going to play this game and manage the numbers, manage satisfaction. And if they do turn on the annual passes, that park just might flood. And then the people that go once in a lifetime might not have that experience they want. And then that'll cause issues too, because they want them to it'd be magical and come back, in 5 years if that's when they do the trip. So we'll pay close attention. We'll report everything and we'll keep a good eye on this one.
Well, and thanks again to our anonymous listener to pass that along. That's a great share. Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jim, we also have not so anonymous, but BioReconstruct posted a really cool image that actually had me doing a little research and learned something new that I did not know that you kind of knew. So there was a brand new sign at Islands of Adventure. It looks like it's at the entryway, or maybe if it's a port, I can't really tell. It's just a close up, but it actually is 4 parks, endless fun, and it has a picture of Jurassic Park. It looks like a raptor, Harry Potter, How to Train Your Dragon, and Spider-Man. And he kind of mentioned that it was like an interesting choice for the 4 icon characters. And we kind of have a theory of why Spider-Man shows up on this, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and this goes all the way back to when Islands first opened in 99, that evidently there was language, to the effect that when they were advertising the park, 20% of, whether it was a poster or a television ad or whatever, had to include Marvel. And so, again, the physical manifestation of this current banner, it's like, wow, Spidey really does look like he occupies 20% of this banner.
Right.
So
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So I don't know if that's still in effect. Like, you get a lot of people online. There's a lot said it was within the first 5 years that you had, that was it. And it seems like it might still be going, but it's very interesting. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, absolutely.
But then again, Spider-Man still, like, it's a known quantity, it's a known IP, and yes, they share it essentially with Disney. But of course, throwing Spider-Man on there is not a bad thing in general. But to me, it's just like, well, maybe classic monsters or Mario would have made a little bit more sense because it's a brand new park and this and that. But Spider-Man, there it is. So if you ever look at any of the advertisements and you see a Marvel on there, and you're like, kind of, why would we be advertising that? It could be that what was in the licensing agreement or part of their initial. So found that out online. I thought that was very interesting to share with anyone that's new like me that had no idea.
But that said, the fact that it's Hiccup and Toothless they're using to hype coming to the parks, again, new IP over at Epic. Right. That's fascinating.
And they got that, the live action just happened. And didn't they already say they're going to do another one? So, I mean, this is going to be current and fresh, and it is a wonderful land with great rides and attractions. So, but poor Volcano Bay didn't. They mentioned 4 parks, but they didn't show any Volcano Bay. Sorry. Okay. But then again, it's closed for the whole year. So
There we go. All right. And to round out the news segment of this week's show, and oddly enough, to help tee up the feature we're about to do, you have some kind of shocking, but at the same time delightful news about, a 4th Mummy movie, but like the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies, right?
I think the Mummy Returns ride applauds this right now, and they're like, this makes our lifespan even longer because it does look like Brendan Fraser. It was announced a couple days ago on Variety that Brendan Fraser and is it Rachel Weisz?
Yeah, Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, she's officially set to return for a new Mummy franchise movie. So the first time, 2 decades? Does that sound right?
Oh, yeah. And, well, a few moments, folks, we're going to be talking about the Mummy movie from 2017, the one that was supposed to launch, Dark Universe. But this is the Stephen Sommers film series coming back, which was, Fraser was charming in these things. And I loved him working with Rachel Weisz. In fact, it was kind of sad when Weisz didn't come back for the the Mummy, the one that was set in China, right? Curse of the Dragon or something like that. Tomb of the Dragon Empire. So, excuse me.
Right. And I mean, but this is funny because I actually saw the original one back in my movie going days, and I think statutes of limitations are good. But back when I was in high school, there was a door, the exit door of our local theater that had, you could pry your little fingers up, and there'd be a gang of 12 of us that would just go see a movie for free. So anything that was out, we just jump in there, sit there, watch it. And I remember seeing The Mummy Returns and enjoyed that franchise. I don't know if I've caught the other ones lately, so I don't imagine that at some point in time they had to shut them down. A trilogy sounds good, but Brendan, he's been in the news. He won an Oscar at some point not so long ago.
And he did actually gotten great reviews for, I want to say, The Visitor, a film where he's effectively playing an American in Japan. So I just kind of delighted that this is going in this direction. So very much looking forward to,
that's right.
Mr. Fraser, suiting up and doing another, comedy action adventure. Because that's the thing. What was so fun about the Stephen Sommers Mummies is it was very much in the Indiana Jones style, as in, I'm making this up as I go along. I'm in the deep end, and this is not going the way I expected. And they were just a lot of fun.
Right. And at the end of the ride, so I'm taking from a theme park attraction ride, Brendan's at the very end yelling for his coffee, then he gets attacked and so forth.
Yeah.
But that's a big screen. They could easily recut a new one while they're out there and make that attraction a little bit more fresh.
All
right?
True.
So I think that's great. So So
Okay.
we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll see how that goes. But that's not the only time I think we talk about the Mummy today, though, right?
No. In fact, when we get back from this break, folks, we're going to continue our series about a dark universe and what we almost got. But first, this.
Hello, I'm Chris Cox, and I've teamed up with Len Tester to argue before our judge, Jim Hill, as he presides over us on our new podcast, The Case 4 with Chris Cox. In every episode, Len and I will argue about the big Disney debates, like park hopping, early entry, and whether churros count as a food group. Whether you're planning a trip or just love Disney debates, it's the perfect podcast for you. Search The Case 4 with Chris Cox wherever you get your podcast.
Men need a store that has the right thing for their thing, like a Kenneth Cole suit made with Choflex fabric to keep them cool at their cousin-in-law's third wedding in the middle of July. Whatever the thing, Men's Warehouse has the clothes for it. Love the way you look, Men's Warehouse.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
And we're back. Okay, Eric. When we left off last week with this tale of Dark Universe, and by the way, want to stress here, this is not the theme park land, the one with the non-burning Burning Blade, but rather Universal Pictures' answer to the MCU. Only rather than, a series of films built around superheroes, this ambitious film franchise was supposed to star and a reimagined version of the Universal classic monsters. And I want to stress here, Rick, that it's not like Universal didn't already have a film franchise of its own. I mean, April of 2009, the fourth film in the Fast and Furious series arrives in theaters. And with this movie, Universal seems to have finally figured out the formula. And then, just like clockwork, every 2 years, there was a new Fast and Furious film out in theaters. Fast 5, April 2011. Fast and Furious 6, 2013, in May of that year. And then Fast 7 was April of 2015. The Fate of the Furious, April of 2017. And then, kind of an interesting bend on the formula, August of 2019, we get Fast and the Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, which I guess as a spinoff didn't really spin off. We get F9 in June of 2019, and finally Fast X, the most recent one. By the way, we have been told that Fast X Part 2, which is supposed to be the finale of this film series, currently slated, Eric, to go out in theaters in May of 2027. But the series, to date, has sold $7.4 billion in tickets.
Oh my! How did they get away with so many films? Like, to not have the fatigue there is insane. I can't say I've seen too many of them. Well, again, we'll go back to the days of watching movies. I think the first one came out in the 2001, 2002, 2003 era. So I definitely saw that and definitely raced home like idiots, like everyone. But man, that's a lot of movies.
It is a lot of movies. But at the same time, like I said, from Fast 4 on forward, they figured out the formula. It's like, all right, we need big set pieces. We need big stars,
Bald men.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's just sort of like bringing people where the audience will go, oh, that guy, like, Dwayne Johnson or Kurt Russell or, that sort of thing. And let's be honest, the nice thing about Universal doing this is that, they were also able to bring this franchise into the park. I mean, have you ever seen any of the footage, for example, for the extreme close-up, the Fast and Furious thing they used to do on the tram tour?
No,
well,
Jim. This is, I mean, he's going to get me yelled at online because I don't know something about Universal.
No.
But
I mean,
please indulge and tell me what this is.
Well, no. By the way, it was long before you started, paying attention to Universal Parks. I mean, this was only in the parks from June of 2006 to July of 2013. But what was kind of interesting about it is it was cars, shells of cars dancing on the end of Kuka arms. I mean, you pulled into this space for the tram tour, and then suddenly it's like, wow, those are really agile cars. Oh, they're around the end of Kuka arms. Got it.
Oh, God. Okay.
All right. On the other hand, there was Fast and Furious Supercharged, which I think you've seen in the Florida park. That originally started off light as the grand finale of the tram tour out in Hollywood. In fact, it was tacked on to the end of the year-long celebration of the 50th anniversary of June of 2015. And then again, we mentioned you got to see the standalone version as a sit down.
Many times at this point in time. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, Universal Hollywood shuttered a Fast and Furious Supercharged March of this year on March 10th to be exact, because they had begun construction on Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift, the roller coaster, which I don't know if you've seen.
Oh God, that looks cool. It looks so cool. Now, granted, I think it could make me sick, but I'm all about going for it. So. Super fast, right? Super high. Yeah, and then it rotates.
It reaches a speed of 72 miles per hour across. What is it? 4,100 feet of track. And what Eric and I are vocally drooling over is that some very nice folks have been standing up on the hillside filming the tests that they're doing. And oh my God, this thing looks great. But again, what I'm saying here is that Universal already had a successful film franchise. And for being honest here, Eric, two. Because Jurassic Park, June of 93, Lost World, May of 97, Jurassic Park 3, July of 2021. And then the series goes on more than a decade-long hiatus because evidently at that point, Universal is like, they have run out of ideas what to do with dinosaur DNA. It's like, all right, now what? In fact, seriously, there was a script written for a version of Jurassic Park where now the dinosaur DNA is being, used with the police force and they're solving crimes with dinosaurs. That
one didn't come to film. That one didn't get too far, huh?
All
right.
We dodged a bullet there, folks. But anyway, as our story picks up today, it's the late summer of 2013. Dracula Untold is wrapping up production in Ireland. But in that same window of time, Universal announced that they're about to get back in the Jurassic Park business. September of that year, 2013, they revealed that the long-awaited fourth film in the series is going to be called Jurassic World and will be released to theaters in June of 2015. And since then, Eric, we've gotten Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. That was July of 2018. We got Jurassic World Dominion. That was June of 2022. And just this past summer, we got Jurassic World Rebirth. That opened in theaters July 2nd, 2025. And I think it was Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett,
effectively, it's like, new trilogy, and I get to star in it. She's a big Jurassic Park fan. But anyway, Jurassic World movies to date have sold $4 billion worth of tickets worldwide. And then if we factor in the $2 billion and change that the earlier Jurassic Park movies made, Eric, that's $6 billion. And so if you take, the Fast and Furious, the money the Fast and Furious franchise has made for Universal, and then the money that Jurassic Park and Jurassic World has made for that same studio, we're talking $13 billion. But just for shits and grins here, let's also throw in Universal's two hugely popular animated franchises. The Shrek movies and all those Despicable Me movies. Minions. We're throwing in the Minions with that too.
Yeah,
all
sure.
Right. Each of those, Eric, $5.6 billion. So we combine that. That's another $11 billion. We were just talking Back to the Future recently in the show. Those three movies combined made $964 million. So if we add all of that together, Eric, that's $25 billion, which is still not enough to beat the 31 that the MCU has earned to date.
Oh, man. Well, that's insane. I mean, I don't know how many movies that MCU has put out. That seems like a lot. But
39!
Okay.
39!
All right. Yeah.
All right.
So I've seen them all except for Eternals.
Okay.
So can't make it through that one.
Right. Seriously, I fell asleep in the theater during it. I'm not proud. I get it, just sort of like, and woke up and didn't miss a thing. But again, MCU, highest earning film franchise in Hollywood history. It has passed the previous winners, and by the way, that's Star Wars and James Bond. So this is why Universal really wants an MCU of its very own. And it got especially crazed about this in May of 2012 when Avengers came out, and the original Avengers, and all on its own made $1.5 billion. And then after that, it's just like Iron Man 3 comes out May of 2013. That makes $1.2 billion. Thor Dark World, November 2013, $668 million. Captain America Winter Soldier, that's April of 2014. That's $714 million. And then the original Guardians, August of 2014, $773 million. That's over $3 billion. Twice what the original Avengers made.
Yeah, and those movies weren't necessarily all that great either. Iron Man 3 and The Dark World were kind of, and a lot of us didn't even know what Guardians of the Galaxy was. Well, so like we went to it blind. So it's that's saying something about like, hey, we can put anything out and it's going to make money.
Well, but that's the genius of what the folks at Marvel Studio were doing with the end credit scenes, the stuff that would sort of tee up the next movie and keep the audience excited and engaged, and more to the point, the notion of this was all telling some larger story, and so executives at Universal like that. We want that. How do we get one of those going? And when we get back from this break, we'll talk about how Universal sincerely tried, and then to be completely honest here, chickened out. But first, this. And we're back. All right. Again, last week's show, we talked about how Universal Pictures, in an effort to turn Dracula Untold into something that could perhaps start an MCU for that studio, a series built around a reimagining of the Universal classic monsters, shot a new end scene for Dracula Untold, one where Dracula in modern day London encounters Mina, who Dracula believes is the reincarnation of his long dead wife, Marina. And more to the point, folks in theaters who were watching the scene see that this seemingly by chance meeting has actually been set up by the master vampire, the character who turned Vlad the Impaler into Dracula. So this now super powerful vampire could drive back the Ottoman Empire, which is intent on conquering Transylvania. And I know, folks, that's a lot of story to remember. But Universal really, really wanted an MCU, and so it's like this post-credit scene. Again, we just talked about that seemed to motivate people, motivate the base for the Marvel movies. So whet their appetite for the next film in the series. So that's what they wanted with Dracula Untold. It was going to be, this is how we're going to launch Dark Universe. But here's the thing, Eric. Universal reveals that Dark Universe, its version, cinematic universe, again, with the Universal Classic Monsters, which will then share stories in that kind of like what Eric was just describing, how, Iron Man 3, Thor, Dark World, You have some standalone films, but at the same time, you also have these films where the characters all gather together and have truly epic adventures. But this is Dark Universe. Word starts to leak out in the trades in July of 2014, whereas Dracula Untold, Eric, doesn't actually arrive in theaters till October 10th of that year, like 3-4 months later. And all right, here's the thing. Dracula Untold does okay at the box office. It makes $271 million worldwide. And thanks to the relatively low production costs, and we talked about on the last show about how they shot it in Ireland and they got money from the country, it may eke out a teeny tiny profit for Universal, but again, the executives up the suits in the Black Tower, again, where all the muckety mucks at Universal hung out. They were like, come on, Dracula Untold can't be our official introduction of the Dark Universe. It wasn't a big enough hit, and this is our MCU. It has to have a big, splashy introduction. And this is what kind of makes me crazy, Eric, because it's like, shows that the Universal Pictures executives weren't actually paying attention when the MCU launched back in 2008, which is weird because the second movie in the MCU was produced by Universal. That's the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk film.
Yeah.
But if you look at the original Iron Man, look, folks, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't really a big star when this Jon Favreau film first arrived in theaters in April of 2008. I mean, he had this interesting reputation among industry insiders. I mean, everybody recognized this man is a brilliant actor. He's magnetic on screen, but he has a troubled personal life. He's having certain substance abuse problems, which ironically enough makes him a brilliant choice to play Tony Stark, because his real life bleeds through into the character. And so Favreau, Jon Favreau, the director of the original Iron Man, he talks about, we're making that movie. And, we start shooting in March of 2007. We don't have enough money, to really make a big effects picture. So we're treating it like it's an indie art film. It just basically tell everybody on set is like, look, I think we only have one take, so like, you got to get it right, and Robert is having some fun with that because he's starring off his fellow actors and making some interesting choices. But this is the thing, Marvel got the MCU going by just doing one film well and then pivoting. It's like, okay, let's do the next film well. And it's slowly, thoughtfully, cumulatively building a new world, a universe. Whereas Universal Pictures, they don't want to wait. They want Dark Universe, their version of the MCU, yesterday. Which is why now that the tail end scene of Dracula Untold, which was supposed to be a slow burn, not going to work. So now, after the fact, suddenly, the word starts coming down from the Dark Tower. It's like, oh yeah, that scene at the end of Dracula Untold. No. That's not really the introduction to the Dark Universe. Not anymore, anyway. Oh, we got something bigger, something far more ambitious coming. It's going to have a big star in the middle, and it's going to be built around the Universal Classic It's going to start with a bang. And Eric, what just cracks me up about this whole thing, if we jump back to 1990, Universal has the rights at that time to make an Iron Man movie, and they try. They put it in development. They can't figure it out. They get so frustrated, they turn around to 20th Century Fox in February of 96 and say, hey, you want it? Give us dough. Cover what we spent on trying to figure out an Iron Man movie. It's yours. And Fox, well, first of all, they look at Nicolas Cage as a possible Tony Stark, but they're like, no. We need somebody bigger. So they approached Tom Cruise. And Cruise is so excited about the idea of playing this Marvel character that he wants his own production company to help produce Iron Man. And so now, if we now move to November of 2015, and Tom Cruise is talking with folks at Universal about Dark Universe and how they're now looking to, like I said, big movie with a star, gonna have a bang. So they're looking at doing The Mummy starring Tom Cruise. And again, this is our introductory film now to the Dark Universe. Please ignore Dracula Untold. But now, here's the problem. You've hired Tom Cruise. So Tom Cruise is going to do what Tom Cruise does, which is make a Tom Cruise movie. It's a film that is going to feature elaborate action set pieces that show this A-lister doing his own stunts, which, Eric, if you want to go see a movie about the Universal classic monsters, is that what you're looking for?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of Mission Impossibles to be seen.
Yeah. All right, folks. And on that note, in the third and final installment of this series, we're going to talk about how The Mummy. Well, first of all, when you start reducing the amount of screen time that The Mummy has in a Mummy movie, that's a problem. Which again was why we're so looking forward to this new Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz film, which I'm sure will have lots of them, but also lots of Mummy. But yeah, we're going to talk about on the next and final installment of the series how some of the most talented people in Hollywood who were really trying to make a good movie wound up effectively killing off Dark Universe when this fledgling film franchise was still in its cradle.
It's funny, Jim, though, that it's just like, if they just would have carried through and just felt, with Dracula Untold, it'd be interesting to, I don't feel like anybody thought Iron Man was the big hit that it would be. I think after time you went back and you watched it and you're like, oh, that was a good movie, but nobody knew it was going to to kick off this giant thing. So that, I don't know. It's just very interesting to see.
No, absolutely.
They're forcing it to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You there's a line out of the original Odd Couple where Oscar Madison has come home, late for a dinner party, and Felix Unger has cooked dinner for their dinner date, and it's the meal is ruined because Oscar got there late, and the meat is dried out, and it's like, well, can't you just put gravy on it? It's like, gravy doesn't come, you have to make it. And that's the thing, that's with Universal. It's this notion of, we're going to make this happen. And it's like, no, you the folks at the Marvel, it came, it happened honestly. I mean, I think, if you look back at the original Iron Man, there's a 1-2 punch in the last 5 minutes of that movie that, you just walked out of the theater. Oh, I want to see that film. I mean, the film, everything up until that point was wonderful. It was really well done. But that great scene where they end the movie where, he's being, Tony Stark is being walked to the stage and he's been handed, the index cards about this is what you're saying to the press. And you have no idea about that man in the suit that was flying around on the city. And, Tony stands at the podium and, it's like he's beginning to lie to the press, and then just throws the cards to the side and says, I'm Iron Man. And bang, the credits begin. And then, you cut to that end scene where, Tony Stark goes home that day and finds Nick Fury, who has somehow defeated his, state-of-the-art security system and is in there to talk to him about the Avengers Initiative. And it's just like those two scenes back to back, you're like, I want to see Iron Man 2 now. And I'm not going to lie here. You're watching The Mummy, with Tom Cruise, and as that movie ends, it's like, that's good. I'm full.
Well, listen, I just feel like if they would have just stayed, it'd be interesting to see if they would have just stayed with the Dracula and just went with it. Because at the end,
you are not wrong. Seriously,
because the Hulk, if you think about the second film in the MCU per se, the Hulk was a good enough film, but nobody really evangelizes and talks about it. It's like, but people still watch it because it's part of it. It's just funny.
They do.
I don't know.
But at the same time, we were just talking about the value of the end credit scenes. That scene, where Robert Downey Jr. walks into the bar where William Hurt's Thunderbolt Ross is sitting there drinking because it's like the Hulk defeated me again. And first of all, it's that lovely line about William Hurt talking to Stark about you always have such lovely suits, and it's just sort of and then the whole notion of he just sort of Stark drops, we're thinking about getting a team together. And what sort of team? I mean, again, cumulatively, these little breadcrumbs that made you, I want to come back for the next movie. What's going on? But you're not wrong. I really think that if they had stuck with Luke Evans as Dracula and had followed the Mina story forward and just built slowly, we'd be having a very different conversation about.
But then we wouldn't have an episode for next week.
So I'm glad
they did it because now you got an episode for next week.
And speaking of next week, Jim. I think we have done enough for this week. At the very least, I need to lie down after driving. I was in the car 14 hours, put 700 miles on the car.
Well, we're going to let you rest before you have to fill another one of your 100 podcasts.
There we go. There we go. And speaking of podcasts, again, thank you for listening to the Epic Universal podcast. And by the way, if you have any topics or suggestions for future shows that you'd like Eric and I to do, please feel free to send those to us through social media or connect with us directly at Jim Hill Media. And beyond that, just again, thanks for listening, folks. And Mr. Hersey and I will be back next week.